Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome to the AMAR Sister Wives courtroom. For more than a decade, the Brown family presented themselves to the world as pioneers of faith, unity, and plural marriage. They stood on television screens across America, promising viewers a new way to understand family. But today, we peel back the curtain. Today, you are not just viewers, you are jurors in the trial of Brown Family Entertainment. Imagine the Brown family as a corporation. Cody Brown, the self-styled patriarch, acted as CEO. His wives, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and later, Robyn, were the divisions of this company. Together, they branded themselves as a united team, bound not just by love but by purpose, to normalize polygamy and prove that a plural household could thrive. For a while, the business thrived. Season 1 of Sister Wives was their initial public offering. The ratings skyrocketed. Viewers invested emotionally, and the network TLC doubled down with book deals, specials, and long-running seasons. Their greatest asset wasn't their homes in Lehigh, Las Vegas, or Flagstaff. Their true currency was their story, the intellectual property of unity against all odds. But just like any corporation, cracks began to appear. Confessionals revealed internal memos of dissent. Cody's leadership came under fire. His blatant favoritism toward Robyn, the newest wife, was seen by many as catastrophic mismanagement. The original wives began to sense that resources, both emotional and financial, were being diverted unfairly. The charges against Cody Brown are serious. Count 1, breach of fiduciary duty. Cody repeatedly acted against the best interests of his original partners. He diverted time, affection, and money toward Robyn's household, while leaving Meri, Janelle, and Christine neglected. Count 2, conspiracy to monopolize. Evidence suggests Cody and Robyn worked together to consolidate power, creating what amounted to a hostile takeover of the family brand. Count 3, fraudulent representation. While the show continued to market the Browns as a plural family, the reality had shifted into something else entirely: a monogamous marriage, with 3 silent, disillusioned partners on the sidelines. This isn't simply the story of a husband losing control of his family. It is the story of a CEO blind with pride, who was outmaneuvered by the very women he underestimated. And the revolution, ladies and gentlemen, was televised. As the trial begins, we look to the evidence. The numbers don't lie. For years, ratings slumped as storylines about Coyote Pass and failed house projects dragged on. But in November 2021, Christine Brown executed her exit, a corporate masterstroke. Her departure reignited the brand, spiking ratings, pulling in new viewers, and turning heartbreak into the most profitable era of Sister Wives. And so, the court is in session. You, the jury, will hear testimonies, examine evidence, and render judgment on the collapse of one of reality television's most famous families. This is not just a family drama. This is the trial of Brown Family Entertainment. Members of the jury, as we continue the trial of Brown Family Entertainment, let us turn our attention to the flagship project that became the symbol of this family's downfall, Coyote Pass. To the public, Coyote Pass was marketed as a dream, acres of Arizona land where each wife would have her own home, all bound together by unity and faith. But to insiders, this was no dream. It was a trap. Christine Brown, one of the founding partners, saw through it. When Cody insisted on building utilities that would run through her parcel of land, she recognized the maneuver for what it was: a power play. If she allowed it, her independence would vanish. Any attempt to build, sell, or invest would require Cody's approval. Her famous words: "I don't want to live on the property with Cody and Robyn," were not just a personal rejection. They were the act of a shareholder refusing to pour more capital into a toxic corporation. It was a revolt. Next came Janelle Brown, often called the CFO of the family. She made one of the boldest moves in reality television history. She bought an RV and lived directly on the undeveloped land during the summer of 2021. Many saw it as desperation. But in truth, it was an independent audit. Janelle camped on the land to measure the viability of Coyote Pass herself. What she found was shocking. After 3 years, Cody had made zero progress. The logistics were impossible, the costs astronomical, and the so-called CEO showed no real commitment to the project. Their heated confrontations inside the RV weren't husband and wife quarrels. They were tense corporate boardroom battles, CFO versus CEO. And Janelle's conclusion was damning. Coyote Pass was not an investment. It was a money pit. By moving off the land and into a rental home, Janelle cast her vote of no confidence in Cody's leadership. She wasn't just leaving a piece of land, she was divesting from a failing enterprise. And then came the theory whispered among those close to the Browns: the land trap. Insiders believe Coyote Pass was never meant to be a shared family home. Instead, Cody and Robyn allegedly designed it as a tether. By keeping Christine and Janelle's names on the deeds and tying them financially to the land, Cody hoped to make leaving nearly impossible. The strategy was simple: bleed them dry, force defaults, and eventually seize control of the entire property at a discount. But Christine and Janelle were smarter. They chose freedom over dirt. They cut their losses and walked away, refusing to be trapped in a doomed financial scheme. Members of the jury, Exhibit D is clear. The Coyote Pass project was not a family dream. It was a fraudulent venture, an anchor designed to weigh down dissenters, and Christine and Janelle's exit wasn't weakness. It was strategic brilliance. The court has now seen the collapse of the Browns' flagship investment. But to prove conspiracy, we must dig deeper. Our next witness, Robyn Brown, the alleged shadow producer, who reshaped the family's narrative from within. Members of the jury, in every corporation there is a figure who works quietly behind the scenes, pulling strings while avoiding direct scrutiny. In Brown Family Entertainment, that figure was Robyn Brown. When Robyn joined the family in 2010, she was presented to the audience as a fresh face, young, eager, and a symbol of the modern plural marriage. But as time passed, a new picture emerged. Robyn was not merely a wife. She was the executive producer of Cody's ambitions, shaping both the family's internal structure and its external image. Her strategy began with loyalty. Unlike Christine and Janelle, who challenged Cody's authority, Robyn offered unwavering support. Her public tears, often flowing during family disputes, were more than emotional breakdowns. They were calculated performances, designed to position herself as the victim, while casting others as aggressors. Every tear was a production note, a subtle reminder to both Cody and the cameras where the sympathy should fall. But loyalty came at a price. When financial troubles hit, Robyn's online jewelry business became a focal point. Family funds were diverted, investments redirected, all to prop up a venture that never turned profit. To outsiders, this was poor management. To insiders, it was something more: Robyn consolidating financial dependency around herself and Cody. The other wives contributed labor and money, but the returns vanished into Robyn's accounts. Then came her greatest production, the tender years doctrine. Cody, once a husband equally shared among 4 women, suddenly began arguing that his youngest children, Robyn's children, were in their tender years and needed the most attention. This argument rewrote the family's hierarchy. Time, resources, and emotional investment shifted dramatically toward Robyn's household, leaving the other wives sidelined. Critics argue this wasn't coincidence. It was a corporate restructuring. By prioritizing her children, Robyn effectively merged her personal brand with Cody's, ensuring that the core of the Brown empire revolved around her nuclear family. Christine and Janelle's kids, on central to the sister wives' narrative, were quietly pushed to the margins. Members of the jury, this is not speculation. The evidence lies in the footage itself. Look at the later seasons. Who commands the screen time? Who controls the storylines? Who frames the conflicts? Time and again, the spotlight falls on Robyn. And while viewers at home saw tears, behind the scenes, those tears functioned like shareholder votes. They influenced Cody's decisions, redirected family resources, and kept Robyn at the center of both the marriage and the show. She was not just a participant, she was the showrunner. By the time Christine left and Janelle followed, the pattern was undeniable. Robyn had not simply become Cody's favorite wife. She had become the silent executive producer, reshaping the Sister Wives brand into a monogamous partnership, masquerading as plural marriage. Exhibit E, members of the jury, is the influence of Robyn Brown. Her tears, her loyalty, her strategies, they were not accidents. They were deliberate acts of control. Acts that shifted the balance of power until the corporation known as the Brown family became, in reality, a two-person partnership, Cody and Robyn, CEO and shadow producer. The court must now examine the fallout. What happens to a corporation when dissenting shareholders walk away and the empire shrinks? The answer lies in the unraveling of a 30-year marriage. Our next witness, Meri Brown, the original investor whose loyalty nearly cost her everything. Members of the jury, every corporation has its first investor, the one who takes the greatest risk, lays the foundation, and trusts the vision before anyone else. In Brown Family Entertainment, that investor was Meri Brown. Meri was Cody's first wife, the cornerstone of the family, the one who made plural marriage possible. Without her consent, there would have been no Christine, no Janelle, no Robyn, and certainly no Sister Wives empire. Yet, as the years unfolded, the original founder was systematically stripped of her power, her influence, and even her dignity. It began with loyalty. Meri stood by Cody through every transition, supporting the move from Utah to Las Vegas and later to Flagstaff. She signed contracts, took part in promotional tours, and defended the family's plural lifestyle against critics. In the early years, she was not just a wife. She was the brand ambassador. But then came the unraveling. Unable to have more children of her own, Meri faced the painful reality of infertility. This created a gap, one that Cody eventually filled with Robyn. Over time, Meri's emotional connection to Cody weakened. By the mid-2010s, her marriage was a shell. Cody admitted publicly he had no romantic interest in her anymore. And then came the scandal that nearly destroyed everything, the catfishing incident of 2015. Seeking companionship, Meri began an online relationship with someone she believed was a man. It turned out to be a woman, a catfish. The revelation was humiliating. For the family, it was a PR nightmare. For Cody, it was a convenient excuse. He used the scandal to further distance himself from Meri, framing her as disloyal and unstable. But, members of the jury, let us be clear, Meri did not betray the family. She was betrayed by loneliness. She was betrayed by a corporation that had pushed her aside while celebrating new partnerships. Her attempt to find companionship was not an act of sabotage. It was a cry for help still. The consequences were brutal. As Robyn rose in power and Christine and Janelle carved their exits, Meri was left isolated. She had no real seat at the table, no influence in family decisions, and no meaningful role in the show. In business terms, she became a legacy shareholder, her name attached to the corporation, but her voice silenced. Season after season, viewers watched her beg for scraps of attention, only to be rejected. In a devastating moment, Cody told her outright, "There's no marriage here. I don't consider myself married to Meri." And yet, she stayed. Not out of love for Cody, but out of loyalty to the brand she helped build. Meri's story is not one of betrayal. It is one of endurance. She represents the dangers of blind loyalty in any enterprise, when the founder clings to the dream long after the dream has abandoned her. Exhibit F, members of the jury, is the cautionary tale of Meri Brown, the woman who gave everything to the family, only to be written out of its future. But what happens when 3 shareholders leave, and only the CEO and his shadow producer remain? The answer lies in the closing arguments of this trial, the final chapter, where we render the verdict on Brown Family Entertainment. Members of the jury, we have reached the end of this trial. Over the past chapters, we have examined the evidence, reviewed the testimony, and dissected the corporation known as Brown Family Entertainment. We saw how Cody Brown, acting as CEO, shifted from visionary leader to reckless executive. He funneled resources into his favored branch, Robyn, while neglecting the founding partners, Christine, Janelle, and Meri. He breached trust, ignored duty, and abandoned the very principles on which the family had been built. We studied Christine's bold exit, a move that reignited public interest and turned heartbreak into the most profitable storyline in the show's history. We analyzed Janelle's independence, her decision to prioritize financial freedom over blind loyalty. We reviewed Meri's tragedy, a founder left stranded, punished for her devotion, and humiliated by betrayal. And through it all, we uncovered the quiet but undeniable conspiracy of Cody and Robyn, a plan to dissolve the plural family structure and consolidate control into a single household. The evidence is overwhelming. Exhibit G, the ratings data, proves that the implosion of the family saved the brand. Heartbreak became the product, betrayal became the hook, divorce became the fuel. Far from destroying the show, the exits of Christine, Janelle, and Meri transformed Sister Wives into a cultural phenomenon. The revolution was televised, and the viewers, you, the jury, were the shareholders who kept the cameras rolling. Exhibit H, the insider reports, suggest that the exits may not have been accidents at all, but strategic moves, negotiated and executed like corporate severance deals. Whether formalized in contracts or not, the wives left not as victims, but as entrepreneurs. They launched their own brands, carved their own identities, and proved they did not need Cody's approval to thrive. And so, we arrive at the closing statement. Cody Brown is not the victim of a broken family. He is the architect of its downfall. By choosing favoritism over fairness, control over compassion, and ego over empathy, he dismantled the corporation he once led. Robyn Brown is not the innocent bystander. She is the co-conspirator, the strategic partner, who benefited most from the collapse. Meanwhile, Christine, Janelle, and Meri stand as case studies in resilience. One left with courage, one left with independence, and one stayed too long but proved that loyalty, even when unrewarded, can still inspire. Members of the jury, the verdict is clear on count 1, breach of fiduciary duty. Guilty. On count 2, conspiracy to monopolize. Guilty. On count 3, fraudulent representation. Guilty. The Brown Family Corporation has been dissolved. The board has resigned. The CEO sits in a house of his own making, powerful perhaps, but isolated. The wives, once silenced partners, now hold their own platforms, their own voices, and their own futures. Court is adjourned. And remember, viewers, this trial may be over, but the story continues. Subscribe to the AMAR Sister Wives for the next case, the next revelation, and the next chapter in the saga of America's most infamous plural family.